Smoking is often treated like a lung problem or a habit problem. That is too small. A lit cigarette is a tiny combustion engine you put in your mouth. It sends heat, particles, nicotine, carbon monoxide, and thousands of chemicals into the body. And the damage starts almost immediately. The first thing that happens is not some dramatic collapse. It is irritation. The lining of the airways gets hit first. The tiny cleaning hairs in the lungs start losing their rhythm, and the blood vessels feel the stress almost at once. Your body is trying to filter, dilute, and repair all of that at the same time. So the real story of smoking is not one organ failing on its own. It is a whole system under pressure. The lungs take the first hit, but the bloodstream carries the consequences everywhere else. A body is not built to inhale burned material all day. Every puff is a repeat event that asks your repair systems to do more work than they were designed for. Do that often enough, and the damage stops looking like an exception and starts looking like a pattern. The chemistry matters because smoke is not one thing. CDC says cigarette smoke contains more than 7,000 chemicals, and at least 69 can cause cancer. That matters because a cigarette is not just tobacco smoke. It is a layered toxic mixture with different kinds of damage built into it. Nicotine is the hook. It reaches the brain fast, attaches to the reward system, and teaches the body to want more before the last cigarette is even finished. Carbon monoxide is the oxygen thief. It gets into the blood and makes it harder for the blood to carry oxygen where it is needed. Then there are the irritants and carcinogens, compounds like acrolein and butadiene, plus heavy metals and fine particles that can reach deep into the lungs. Some of those chemicals inflame tissue right away. Some change DNA. Some do both. Lighting the cigarette makes the problem worse, not better. Heat changes the chemistry, creates more harmful byproducts, and turns a plant leaf into a delivery system for a much more aggressive exposure. That is why just one still matters. The body is not only reacting to a single puff, it is reacting to the same chemistry again and again, with almost no recovery time in between. The first major system smoking hits is the circulatory system. It raises heart rate and blood pressure, damages the lining of blood vessels, makes blood stickier, and helps plaque build up. That plaque is not just clutter. It is a narrowing of the pipes that carry oxygen and nutrients to every organ. Over time, the plaque can rupture and the blood can clot around it. That is the basic setup for a heart attack or a stroke. Smoking also contributes to peripheral artery disease, where circulation to the legs and feet gets so restricted that walking becomes painful or difficult. CDC says smoking is responsible for 1 in 4 cardiovascular deaths in the United States. That is why smoking is not just a cancer story or a lung story. It is a blood flow story. Once the vessels are damaged, the whole body feels it, because every organ depends on that delivery system working well. When the vessels stiffen and scar, the heart has to push harder to move the same amount of blood. That extra load is part of why smokers face more chest pain, more clots, and more damage in the arteries that feed the brain and limbs. The lungs take the most obvious hit, but not the only hit. Smoking inflames the airways, thickens mucus, and destroys the tiny air sacs that move oxygen into the body. Those tiny air sacs are where oxygen transfer happens, and when they break down, the lungs lose surface area and elastic recoil. Over time, that damage can turn into chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. COPD is really 2 overlapping problems: chronic bronchitis, where the airways stay irritated and overproduce mucus, and emphysema, where the air sacs themselves are damaged. Either way, the result is the same. Air gets in and out less efficiently, and ordinary exertion starts to feel expensive. CDC says smoking causes as many as 8 out of 10 COPD-related deaths. The visible symptom is breathlessness, but the deeper story is structural damage. The lungs are not just gunked up. They are being remodeled in a way that makes every breath work harder. Starting young matters too. Smoking during childhood and the teen years can slow lung growth and development, which means the body may never build the same breathing reserve it would otherwise have. Once you widen the lens, smoking touches almost everything else. It can cause cancer almost anywhere in the body, including the lungs, mouth, throat, larynx, esophagus, bladder, pancreas, kidney, cervix, liver, stomach, colon, and rectum, and the blood. That is a long list for a reason. The smoke is not staying in one place. It is reaching tissue, bloodstream, and DNA throughout the body. And cancer is only part of the picture. Smoking increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, and CDC says the risk can be 30 to 40% higher. It can also harm fertility in both men and women, damage sperm, make it harder to conceive, and complicate pregnancy with problems like low birth weight, preterm delivery, and stillbirth. Babies are not protected by distance if smoke is in the environment. Smoking during pregnancy can affect a baby's developing lungs and brain, and secondhand exposure can raise the risk of sudden infant death syndrome. Add in eye disease, gum disease, immune problems, and erectile dysfunction, and the point becomes hard to miss. Smoking is not one disease. It is a broad biological tax on the body's repair systems. Smoking also interferes with the immune system and with wound healing, which is one reason the damage shows up in places people do not connect to cigarettes. Slower recovery after illness, more complications after surgery, and a weaker ability to catch bad cells early. The harm does not stop at the smoker. There is no safe level of secondhand smoke. Even brief exposure can cause immediate damage, and it raises the risk of heart disease, stroke, lung cancer, asthma attacks, ear infections, and respiratory illness in children. That is why smoking is never just a private act in a shared space. The good news is that the body also starts recovering when exposure stops. Within hours, carbon monoxide levels fall, and the blood can carry oxygen better. Within weeks, circulation improves, and cough and wheeze can ease. Over months, lung function can improve. Over years, the risk of heart disease, cancer, and other smoking-related illness keeps dropping. Quitting helps at any age, and the earlier it happens, the bigger the payoff. CDC and NCI both make the same basic point. It is never too late to benefit. And if someone quits before 40, the chance of dying prematurely from smoking-related disease drops dramatically. And this is where real quitting support matters. Counseling plus medication works better than trying to white-knuckle it alone. And CDC points people to quit lines, nicotine replacement, and tools like patches, gum, lozenges, or prescription medications. More than half of U.S. adults who ever smoked have quit, which is a useful reminder that this is hard, but very possible. So the ending is not that smoking only hurts later. It hurts now. It reaches farther than most people realize, and stopping gives the body a real chance to rebound.